Welcome to a special Great Day Live. We are here live this morning inside the First Baptist Colored Church as we celebrate and honor Black History Month. This is where we begin our show. A great deal of significance here in these walls. In this church, the spirit of this community lives right in here. I'm joined by Elizabeth Mitchell. She is a local historian to kind of set the tone for why this is such an important cornerstone here in this community. You're a historian. You have documented, not just in a book, but you have an entire documentary about this church and what it means to this community.
Well, the community, the African American community made these resorts wealthy, made this community. It would not have been had not for their hard labor. And thanks to Sinclair, who used to own the West Baden Hotel, he sold this property to a group of African Americans. He wanted them to stay here in West Baden and not go to French Lick. French Lick had an AME church. They needed a Baptist church. So he sold this property to a group of his employees for $1. They built this church, and it was built around 1920. And with Eliza Cornish, one woman with the strength to say, you know, this is the devil's hellhole. We need a church. And from there, she brought in ministers from Louisville, Kentucky, who had created Simmons College, which still exists there.
It does.
The first pastor of this church could read and write, spoke several languages. The people here could read and write. They created ball teams. They built this church, no architect. And it has existed and lasted when nothing else has. This is the last remaining structure in the county pertaining to African Americans. Everything else is gone. There's a reason this church is still standing today. So we felt the need to renovate it and save it and to bring it back to what it was and to have church services every Sunday.
You mentioned bringing it back to what it was. Has there been significant renovations to this church?
Absolutely.
This place? Yeah.
At one point, you would walk in this church and you could stand in the center here and look out and see outside. All the walls were missing. What was standing was serpentine. It was just a house for animals, raccoons, birds. And so we thought, how are we going to renovate this church? So I brought a team in, my team, Goditis Productions. We came in first with all of our cameras, set cameras around, and took video of the condition it was in. We edited and made a 1-minute shot and went around for fundraising. And that got the ball rolling. And television interviews, newspaper interviews, and people saw the need and donated. At one point, we had no money. Pastor Rose and I went back to Bloomington, Second Baptist Church. He got down on his knees and prayed. The next morning, we had $10,000 to regroup. So as we were getting money, we were doing the renovation little bit by little with volunteers. 80-year-old men did this. It was on the brink of death, and now new life has been breathed into this church.
New life and new members in many ways.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so what do you want people to know about if they come up here to visit? Can they come to church here? Can they come in? What do you want them to know about coming to this church?
I want them to know that everyone is welcome. It doesn't matter what the marquee says. That's historic. That's the way it used to be. Anybody is welcome to come to this church. There are services every Sunday at 11 o'clock with Reverend Pendergrass. And you will come in through these doors, historic doors, and you will see what people were able to do back then when they made very little money, and what the community and Indiana has done to save this church. And it's just an important building and structure for the state of Indiana that this has been renovated.
Beautiful renovation, but I think it speaks to how far you all have come. How can people connect with you and watch your documentary and follow what you're doing right here?
The documentary, I believe, is on YouTube, and it is called Reviving the West Baden Colored Church, A Labor of Love. And that name came about because as people were asking me about doing this church, and it was a labor of love, because we volunteered 7 years of our life to bring this church back.
And we thank you so much, Elizabeth, for taking
Thank
time
you.
this morning, because you are setting off our show in an important way, bringing context to why we were here and why French Lick West Baden is what it is today. So once again, you can follow her over on YouTube.